Hi everyone and welcome to today's kitchen session, which is called Consumer and Advertising Psychology. My name's Anna and I'm a Higher Education Advisor here at the University of Chester, and today I'm joined by Dr. Hayley Gilman and Dr. Annie Scudds from our School of Psychology, who'll be presenting today's session. We've also got my colleague Claire behind the scenes helping out too. So just to start by reassuring everyone that your video and audio are not shared at all during the course of this session. So how today will work, I'll hand over shortly to Hayley and Annie for their talk, and during the presentation you'll be able to ask questions in the chat function on the right hand side of the screen. You can ask questions anonymously if you want to, you just need to tick the box to do that. You can also like other questions from people so we can sort of see which are the most popular questions as we go along. I think that's everything from me, so now I'll hand you over to Hayley and Annie.
All right, thanks very much. And good afternoon, everybody, on this sunny afternoon. So well done for joining us for this exciting psychology lecture. I'm sure you can't wait to all get outside and enjoy a bit of the sunshine. So here we go. Hopefully it will work. So today, like Anna just said, it'll be me, Annie Scudds, and Hayley Gilman. They'll be talking to you about two very kind of closely linked subjects, consumer and advertising psychology. So the first thing that I'd like to talk to you about is what is consumer psychology? And I don't know if you ever thought about it or if you ever thought that psychology could actually have something to do with consumer psychology. When I was a student, a postgraduate student, I used to study cognitive psychology. So I don't know if you've done some cognitive psychology in your A-levels, and I didn't really know anything about consumer psychology. I had very little insight as to how what I was studying could actually contribute to understanding consumer behavior. So consumer psychology, basically what it does, it aims to understand how and why people engage in consumer activities. So anything from like shopping or engaging in services or engaging online. So a large part of this, as you can imagine, has got to do with the cognitive processes and the behaviors that people can have when they do purchase projects and when they make choices and when they interact with these things. And just to remind you what cognitive psychology is, it's the study of the mental processes such as attention. So think about when you go shopping and if you go to the supermarket, how you've got to pay attention to different things to make sure that you pick the right thing. Language, how do we make sense like of labels on packaging when we pick things up? Memory, do you remember the product or the brand that you usually buy and what it looks like? Perception, how do you recognize a certain type of product, right? How can you tell apart a tin of tomatoes and a bottle of ketchup? Problem solving. Now, you will be like me and you go to the supermarket and then you have the price in pounds of like the price per kilogram, and then you've got the price per item and you're trying to make sense of which one is the best deal for you. And it's not always evident that that's the case. So how you do that problem solving, thinking, and obviously decision making. How do you at the end make a decision on which product you're going to be purchasing? So basically, in a nutshell, shopping, it's about decision making, isn't it? So the research in consumer psychology, it can take like an awful lot of different forms and formats. So we can do both qualitative and quantitative research in consumer psychologists. And I don't know if you come across to these different types of research and methodology, but I've put some images there to kind of give you some examples. So when we talk about qualitative psychology, qualitative methods, we're talking about things like having interviews or having focus groups. You can see like on the second row on the right, this is a focus group behind like a one-way mirror. So people will be discussing certain topics that are relevant to some marketeers and people will be observing and taking notes. There's observational methods as well that is used. You can see like the man at the bottom doing laundry. We like that photo of a man doing laundry. And so he's doing laundry. And I used to work at Unilever Research and Development, and we had this special room where we kind of build this kind of house and where we observed people using the different products and try to understand how they did that. But there's also a lot of quantitative research. So You've got different things on the left-hand side here. You've got like questionnaires. So we collect data like in questionnaires. On the second row on the left, you have somebody that is wearing an eye tracker. So these funny glasses that this lady is wearing has got cameras. It's got cameras pointing to where she's looking. And it's also got cameras pointing to her eyes to record all the eye movements that she's making when she's going shopping. So we can see where she's paying attention to and what she's looking at when she's making her choices. So these are only a few examples of the type of research that you can do in consumer psychology. But like I said, it's about making decisions when we purchase and when we engage in consumer behavior. And what's important to understand is that it's quite complicated to do that, although often we make these decisions very, very quickly. But when consumers are faced with an awful lot of opportunities and options, they only consider a very small part of the information that is available to them. So in other words, not everything that is in front of them is processed. They only are selectively attending some things. And you'll find that sometimes there's just too much information. And here I had a little clip that I'm not going to play because I was told that videos were not great in this type of presentation, but it was like Room 101 clip with Mel, see if any of you know who she is. And basically she wanted to put toothpaste in Room 101 because she says it's so complicated. You arrive, whitening, tooth straightening, anti-pain, and then there's so many different types of product that it's really difficult to make a decision because there's so much information. Now, here you go, as a bit test for you. So this is a technique called change blindness. So you've got one image and it's flickered with a different image. And I say different because there's a difference between the two images that you're seeing. If you were in a lab and we would be using this technique, your task is to spot the difference between these two images. And then I'm going to leave you to kind of have a wee look at it for a bit longer. Some of you might see it quite quickly. Once you've seen it, you can't stop yourself from seeing it. But maybe for some of you, it's going to take a bit longer. Whilst it's going on, I'll tell you how we use that. In consumer psychology, we use it often, for example, to test packaging. So we'll make changes to different types of packaging and we'll try to see how consumers are perceiving these changes. So obviously, the quicker you notice that change, the more salient and obvious and maybe inherent to the definition of that package it is. So it is an important feature. Now I'm going to relieve you for those of you who haven't seen it. There's a reflection in the water of the building on the right that appears and disappears. So hopefully a few of you have seen that quite quickly. So that makes me like come to this idea of packs. And I always talk about packs. Well, first of all, because I'm really interested in packs and I've studied packs an awful lot. But consumer packaging is a really, really important dimension of any product, brand, or variant. And from variant, we mean like if you've got the example of Walker's crisp there. That Walker is the product is this crisp, the brand is Walker, and the variant is like the different types of crisp, prawn cocktail, and salt and vinegar. So the packaging is really, really important because it is like a mean of engaging with consumer, isn't it? To be a successful pack, the pack needs to do many things. It needs to have some physical property. So that's not really got to do with psychology, but it needs to fulfill these different things as well. So it needs to be safe. It needs to be easy to open. Can I just say that's not always the case? Who opens like packs of ham and they can never open them properly? I don't know if I'm the only one, but I always almost swear when I open ham because it doesn't open. It needs to be resistant. It needs to be protective. And even now, pack has become almost part of the product that you're buying sometimes. If you think of like tissue boxes, you choose the one that kind of will look nice on your kitchen counter, or even like in terms of personal products, if you think about, for example, shampoo bottles or hand soap. We're using a lot of these just now. So the hand soap, you don't want to put any old bottle on your kitchen counter. Mind you, we don't have many guests in our houses just now to kind of impose judgment on the soap that we're using. But anyway, so it's gonna have all these different physical properties, but also it needs to have these visual attributes, because these attributes, like the way that the packaging is done, it needs to fulfill a lot of different kind of things. It needs to be representative of the brand. So you need to be able to recognize that Walker packs of crisp. It needs to be also representative of the product category. So you need to know that it's a pack of crisp, it's not something else. And also it needs to be pleasant, like I just said, but most importantly, it needs to be distinctive. Because when somebody goes to the supermarket, I tell you what, it needs to be seen, and people need to be able to pay attention to it. Because if they don't see it and they don't pay attention to it, for sure, they will not buy it. So the pack needs to be seen. It needs to kind of like grab people's attention. So that's what we call shelf impact. So it's not the only quality or feature that a packaging needs to have, but it's a necessary quality that it needs to have, because if it doesn't have that, people cannot buy it. If I show you this little guy, I don't know if many of you know who Wally is, and think about this. So yeah, where's Wally? Where's Wally in this scene? And I'll give you a few seconds to have a go at it, and then I'll show you where he is. Probably not gonna have long enough to kind of like do this thing, but I'm gonna show you now. There he is. That's a really difficult task, isn't it? And we spend a lot of time, and we kind of devote a lot of attention to be able to kind of succeed in this task. Well, that, my friend, is not very different to like what happens when you try to find this thing in, oh no, I don't have, oh, I missed it. Oh, there you go. In this thing, right? So here you go. This is like some oat milk that you need to find in this like array of product. Now, I'm somebody that buys this type of product, and there are certain supermarkets I go to and I know where it is, but if you don't have that knowledge, this becomes really, really difficult. If I ask you, can you tell me what this is? I've just told you like it's oat milk, but really, is it just oat milk? And you'll see where I'm going with this. When you look at this, I'm trying to change my slide, okay? Consumers might not be looking at the same thing when they are looking for milk, when they are looking for something that is a non-dairy product, when they are looking for a brand that's called Oatly, when they are looking for a UHT product, because this one is not fresh milk, it's a UHT product. All these different things that I've put on the slide are all different categories to which that object on the left belongs to. And what happens is that us as consumers, we're not looking at the same type of information in order to succeed in categorizing. So that's putting that object in the right class of the stuff that I've put on the right. Okay, so we're paying attention visually to different things in order to succeed in the task. So, for example, if you want to look at the type of product, so you say, oh, well, this is like a UHT or fresh type of pack, UHT or fresh milk, maybe you will look at the type of pack. The shape is different. On the top line, these are the UHT milk, so you can see it's kind of straight on a slant at the top, and the other ones are kind of like triangular. One is UHT, one is fresh, and that's one way of distinguishing it. To know that it's Oatly milk, probably going to be looking at the logo of the brand. To know which variant that you buy, I buy the one to make coffee. So I buy the barista one, which is the gray one, top second one. So I know that I need to look for the gray one. Yeah, and the shape of the product obviously tells us something. The shape of the pack tells us something about the type of product that it is. You know that this is not a pack of crisp, right? You know that it's not a bottle of Coke. Because it's got that shape, you know that it is kind of like a milky product, right? So different visual cues from the same object can help us put it in different classes. So the other thing that I would like to say, and I kind of mentioned that, is that our experience that we've had previously with these types of products can actually influence what we choose and also what we look for when we go to the supermarket. I've already told you that I buy this product, so I know where it is, and when I get there, I know exactly which cues I'm looking for. But believe me, when I send my husband to buy that product for me, he can phone me about 3 times on the mobile and say, where is it? What is it? And he doesn't really have a clue, basically, because he doesn't use that brand. He doesn't use it. The more we know about things, the more things we're able to see, because we're able to extract a lot of information from the visual display. So that's in a nutshell. That's me. So what I will do now is I'll pass it on to Hayley. We'll be now talking about advertising.
Thank you, Annie. And actually, I've just learned something. I didn't know about the flat and the not flat milk tops for UHT and fresh milk. So there we go, learned something. So I wanted to build upon what Annie's just talked about in terms of consumer psychology, and just give a little bit of context about how we're advertised to as consumers, and then how that might impact our decisions that we make. So Annie's kind of said there about, we pay attention to things, and we sort of, go along with sort of what we know and what we have an idea about. So the aims of advertising, if I said to you, what is an advert, what is the purpose of advertising, we all kind of have this agreement that it's try to influence us to buy something. So advertisers work really hard on their advertisements to try and get us as the consumer to respond in a positive way. So if you are studying psychology or you're interested in psychology, you'll know that there are 3 components which make up our attitude. Annie talked a little bit about cognitive aspects. So this is sort of how we think about things and what we believe. But also our affective and behavioural responses are important to consider in terms of advertising as well. So affective responses are sort of things about how we feel about things, and the behavioural responses sort of allude to sort of how we act or how we intend to act. So generally, advertisers will try to get us to think about something, believe something, and then try to change our affective response and behavioural response accordingly. Okay, next slide, Annie, please. So in sort of very dated times, you can put the pictures up, please, Annie. The early traditional model of advertising sort of really looked at ads like this. So these are very early ads. These are some of the first adverts that sort of came out years and years back. And what you'll see in these ads, if I showed you these now to try and influence you to buy something, I think most people would tend to agree that actually, you're not going to read all that information. There's too much information on there, too text heavy, very little colour, very boring. But in the olden times, this is how they believed that ads were effective. So there was this belief that you could only sort of advertise to somebody if you gave them lots and lots of information. So you need to tell everyone about the product, where to get it, the price, why it's a good product. And this is how they believed that advertising would work. Okay, next slide, Annie. But now ads look a lot like this. So I put these slides together and then realised that you might be quite a lot younger than we are. So this is the ad from 2007. So if you've not seen this ad, do have a look at it on YouTube. So it's the Cadbury's Gorilla ad. So this is quite a long advert, actually. It's over 1.5 minutes, where basically that gorilla just bangs drums. And that was the advert for Cadbury's chocolate. So like I say, back in 2007. Now, when you look at that ad, you will see that, there's no speaking, there's no information. It doesn't even tell you that it's advertising Cadbury's right until the end of 1 minute and 30. But this ad was very, very effective. So sales increased dramatically for Cadbury's after this gorilla banged his drums on TV. Next slide, Annie. And then this, so again, quite an old ad. I'm sure we're all very familiar with the Go Compare man. Normally I would play a video, but I'm not going to be able to do that today. Most people kind of groan and pull their faces when I kind of play the Go Compare ad, and everyone's like, oh my goodness, like I really just do not like these ads, you know, the voice is irritating. But this ad has still been going in various forms right the way back from 2010. And when this ad was first released in 2010, despite most people saying that they really hated the ad, it very quickly became the most popular comparison site. So people who are buying car insurance or health insurance, pet insurance, it's the site that people would go to you know, get prices. And it kind of leads us to think, like, why is this? So, you know, we've got the Cadbury's gorilla where there's no information about the ad. It is just, you know, a gorilla banging drums. And in this instance, we've got a really irritating man singing about car insurance that everybody dislikes. But these are really, really effective ads. And if we think back to a couple of slides ago where we had the very text heavy adverts, you know, this isn't something which, you know, we now sort of see within the advertising market. Next, Annie. So just very briefly, so as Annie said, you know, consumers now, we only consider a small part of the information available to make a decision. There is too much information out there. So there are too many products. As Annie said, you know, there's too much choice, there's too much information. So we've adapted and we've sort of over the years, you know, adopted this, you know, approach that we can't read everything. We can't attend to every bit of information. We can't process all the information that's out there. And often there's too much information. So over the years, advertisers have used different psychological techniques to try to persuade us to buy their products. And one of these ways is humour. So on the next slide, you will see some ads which I find humorous. Come up, Annie. So it might just, you know, show my humour style, I suppose. So the first one there, so stop toast brutality. I know I'm, you know, really bad for this. You know, just when the butter just won't spread on hot toast, it just instead hacks great big chunks out of it. That middle one is me. So I did only straighten my hair 30 minutes ago because it just, whatever I do, you know, it's usually out here. And then that one at the end with the dog is chili sauce. So if you think back to sort of brands or products that you buy, you know, we do know that humour is very effective, and humour is often used as a way to sort of put something into our memory. So when you're looking for shampoo and conditioner, for example, you might think back to this ad because it's got a humorous element. Next slide, please. And also I had to put these up because they're just so cute. So I'm sure if I said to you, you know, the puppy's on the left-hand side, what is it that this is advertising? So this is the Andrex puppy. In the middle there, we've got the McVitie's with the little kittens, and then we've got the Coca-Cola truck. So for those of you that are familiar with psychology, you might have come across something called evaluative conditioning. And I've just applied this to the Coca-Cola truck just because it's Christmas themed, and everyone in school psychology knows my love for Christmas. So this is the idea that you can start to sort of associate things with something that you like. So in this instance, we pair the unconditioned stimulus, so sort of Santa and Christmas, with Coca-Cola, and it gives us that response of sort of the liking and the feel good factor. So for the majority of people, you know, Christmas is seen as a good time of year. You know, we've got that excitement, we've got that feelings of joy. You know, hopefully Coca-Cola are trying to get you to also sort of think about their product in that same way. And this is exactly what McVitie's and Andrex do as well. So I keep buying these McVitie's biscuits hoping that a little kitten will come out. It doesn't. It is normally biscuits. But, you know, you have that kind of, you look at it and you think, oh, that's so cute. Like, you know, you have that association of cuteness and liking that you then attribute to the product. Next slide, Annie. Product placement is another technique that advertisers use. So again, the top image is from Friends. So we can see there we've got a character holding some Nike trainers, and we've got a character wearing the Nike hoodie. We've got James Bond there with a particular type of laptop, a fancy watch, a new iPhone, and we've also got a screenshot from American Idol where we can see that, you know, we've got the Coca-Cola glasses there. So product placement is becoming more and more popular now. So lots more advertisers are using product placement to try and get us again to make those associations between certain products and us as consumers. So if that watch or that phone is good enough for James Bond, it's certainly going to be good enough for me. So again, it's getting you, without really thinking about it in too much depth, it's getting you to sort of have that liking for something just by, you know, associating it with something else that we like. And on the next slide, celebrity endorsement is, you know, another way which, you know, actually is getting increasingly more common. So we've got celebrities there, you know, from Coca-Cola, water, tomato, Edchup, which I thought was quite a clever ad. My favourite on this slide is the David Beckham fish fingers, which is legitimately an actual ad. It's an actual celebrity endorsement. I don't know why, so please don't type why did David Beckham decide to advertise fish fingers, because I don't have the answer to that. But for some reason, he obviously felt he needed a little bit more money, so he went with the ad. But again, it's that association between, you know, if you're looking into the freezer section of a supermarket and you've got these decisions to make about which fish fingers am I going to buy, you know, is it going to be these ones? Has this one got more cod and those sorts of things? You know, it's again this idea that you're going to look at that packet and think, oh, okay, David Beckham eats those fish fingers, I'm going to eat those ones. So again, it's getting you, again, without really thinking about it in too much detail, it's getting you to associate something with a celebrity that people sort of like and know. So if we just sort of, you know, offer some conclusions to this talk. So as Annie said at the beginning, you know, they kind of go hand in hand. So we get advertised to, and then we sort of go out and we are consumers, whether that's on the internet or, you know, actual real life shopping when that becomes available again. It's a really interesting topic, and it's something which is emerging sort of within psychology. So I think people have sort of come to University of Chester to do psychology and get introduced to this area, and it's not something that people have typically thought of or associated with psychology before. So as we've sort of said, and as Annie sort of alluded to in the first half of the presentation, consumers don't often pay attention to all of the details that are presented to them. You know, there's just too much information out there for us to process and to consciously think about. So if we just have the last point there, Annie, advertisers use really clever tactics to encourage us to buy products. So as these change, so too does the way in which we're advertised to. So not had time to talk about it today, but for example, a lot more advertisers now are targeting people. That sounds very dramatic. You know, on like Facebook or, you know, on the internet, you know, if you search for a pair of trainers, you can guarantee for the next couple of months you're going to have lots of tailored ad for trainers. So as advertising increases, as you know, how advertising moves in time, so too do the advertisers. So thank you very much for listening. There are a couple of questions, so I don't know. Yeah, excellent. So I'm going to actually ask you this first question, Annie, because you might be able to answer it how it's written, and then I'll just chip in with some other stuff. But the question is from Kate, and it says, is there a sex difference in how men and women make consumer decisions?
Is there sex differences? There could well be sex differences, and I think one of the main differences that we see actually the language around consumer science has changed a little bit. We talk about the shopper, so the shopper is the person that actually purchases the products, not necessarily the person that's going to be using them. And I hate to say this, I really do, but in a household it's more often the woman that do. I hate saying this because it makes me feel like I'm the one that's sexist, but so I'm not. But so that's the case. So if the majority of people that are purchasing these products are female, we need to look at it. And you're right, there might be some sex differences there. Hayley? Do you want to add something to that?
So when this question came through, so I've not really looked at this in terms of sex differences, but there are certainly age differences. And my PhD thesis and my research since then has been looking at how, you know, children of different ages sort of alter their preferences as they sort of develop more in terms of their cognition, and also how children differ from adults. So very young children, for example, will believe everything that they see. So where us as adults, we can kind of, you know, make that conscious decision about things, and we can sort of, you know, question things and weigh up the pros and cons of things. Actually, children are very, very susceptible to advertising, and in particular, you know, celebrity endorsements. So, you know, there are definitely, as well as sex differences, there are definitely age differences as well. So Annie, I know I've certainly got a favourite ad, but have you got a favourite advert?
Oh, let me think. If you've got one on the top of your head, you go ahead.
Okay, I was going to say don't steal mine. So my favourite ad is always the John Lewis ad, at Christmas. I just love them. So I think, you know, it's again a very clever tactic. It gets us excited, generally for Christmas. It's also sort of the event of the year that people, you know, tend to count down to towards Christmas, or, you know, people who like Christmas as much as I do anyway. And I think, you know, the fact that they get a narrative in there, they get, you know, a story, they get people invested in a particular character that then, you know, becomes sort of the dominance of their shop. Again, I think they are very, very clever in how they do that. You know, if you're going to go in to buy, you know, the boxer dog toy that bounces on a trampoline, whilst you're in there, you're also going to do other shopping in the store as well. So that's my favourite. Don't know about you, Annie?
Yeah, I can't think of one now. You just put me on the spot.
Sorry. So Annie and I, we often both sort of allude to John Lewis, don't we, when we do our session together? Yeah, excellent.
I was saying to you earlier that I was a little bit disappointed with this year's advert. You know, there's a bit of a build-up. People know that Christmas is coming when that advert's coming. So it's really becomes something quite cultural, isn't it, in this country, that we know that the advert's coming, therefore Christmas is coming.
Yeah, excellent. Well, there aren't any other questions that have come in. So we'll hand it back to Anna, if that's okay. Thanks, Annie.
Thank you both. Thank you both very much. That was really interesting, and it's certainly something that everyone can relate to. And then just having a little think about the science behind it all was really interesting. So thank you very much. That's everything we have for today. Just to let you know, I'll just pop the details there of the kitchen sessions page on our website, and you can watch back our whole series of psychology kitchen sessions alongside a load of other different interesting subjects as well. And you can also take a look at some upcoming events we've got still to come. So thank you, Annie, thank you, Hayley, and thank you very much. Goodbye.